Welcome to this lesson on a topic that every professional encounters, but few truly master: conflict and conversations at work. Today we're shifting our perspective on what it means to disagree. I'm Kennedy and I'm glad you're here. Most of us dread conflict. We think of it as a sign that something is wrong. But what if we saw it differently? What if conflict was actually evidence that your team cares about the work they're doing? Today we're going to look at why we avoid it and how to face it head on. Imagine a workplace where everyone always agrees. At first that sounds peaceful, but in reality, it often means people are afraid to speak up, afraid to challenge bad ideas, or simply don't care enough to engage. Innovation disappears because nobody wants to risk creating tension. Conflict by itself isn't a warning sign. In many cases, it's evidence of engagement. In this lesson, we're building on our previous discussions about team trust. We're going to break down the core problem versus the friction, how to interrupt the cycle of assumptions, and the practical language you can start using today. Our goal is to move from fearing conflict to navigating it with confidence. Specifically, we'll cover the core problem versus the friction, how to interrupt assumptions before they take hold, and practical scripts for healthy conflict that you can apply immediately in your next meeting. The heart of a healthy team isn't the absence of conflict, it's the quality of the conversation when conflict arises. Think about friction. Two people can disagree over a deadline or a process every day in healthy organizations. The better question isn't, do we have conflict, but how do we handle it when it happens? That's where communication changes everything. Think about rubbing two sticks together. That friction can start a fire that burns the whole forest, or it can create the spark that cooks a meal and keeps people warm. Conflict works the same way. The disagreement isn't what determines the outcome. The communication does. What happens in the next 5 minutes separates healthy teams from unhealthy ones. Poor communication turns small problems into big ones through a cycle of assumptions. Imagine Sarah notices Mike didn't finish part of a project. Instead of asking him, she thinks, he's lazy. She tells a coworker, who tells someone else. Now people are avoiding Mike. Mike notices and becomes defensive. Sarah sees his defensiveness and thinks, see, he's difficult. What started as one task has become damaged trust and resentment. Most workplace conflict begins not with facts, but with the stories we tell ourselves. When communication stops, people fill in the blanks. And our brains usually don't fill those blanks with generous explanations. We assume the worst. They don't care, or they're trying to make me look bad. Good communication replaces these stories with information. Healthy communication interrupts that cycle. Imagine the same situation. Sarah walks over and says, "Hey Mike, I noticed this part wasn't finished. I wanted to check in before I made any assumptions. Is everything okay?" Mike explains he was pulled into an emergency. 30 seconds. No gossip, no resentment. The conflict disappeared because communication happened before assumptions took over. In that scenario, the original issue wasn't the project. It was the potential for miscommunication. Healthy teams use that 30-second window to clarify rather than assume. By replacing stories with facts, you stop the resentment cycle before it even begins. To disagree well, we need simple rules. Address concerns early instead of letting resentment build. Speak respectfully, even when you're frustrated. Focus on behaviours and facts rather than personalities. And most importantly, listen to understand instead of just waiting for your turn to respond. It's okay to say, "I see this differently." It's not okay to attack someone's character. Let's look at how this sounds in practice. Instead of accusing someone by saying, "You never helped the team," try, "I noticed I handle the last 2 projects by myself. Can we talk about how we can divide the work more evenly?" Instead of, "You're always negative," try, "It seems like we're focusing on what won't work. I'd like to hear what you think could work." This invites conversation instead of defense. Defensiveness makes conflict expensive. When people feel attacked, they stop listening. That's why phrases like "you always" or "everyone thinks" never solve anything. Remember, the problem is the problem, not the person. Healthy teams aren't perfect. They are recovery experts. They clarified, they apologized, they forgive, and they move forward. That is what trust looks like. As we wrap up, remember these 3 keys. Address concerns early before resentment builds. Replace the stories you tell yourself with direct information. And prioritize recovery, clarifying and moving forward over the need to be perfect. Recovery is the foundation of trust. Disagreements will happen. How you repair them matters. One last tip. If emotions are running high, it's okay to take a short break. Step away, gather your thoughts, and return to the conversation with a clear head. Assume positive intent until you have evidence otherwise. This mindset shifts conflict from something we fear into something we can navigate with curiosity and respect. Every difficult conversation is a chance to build trust. Conflict is inevitable. Miscommunication is optional. Every disagreement gives us a choice. We can let assumptions and silence divide us, or we can choose curiosity, respect, and honest conversation. Teams don't become stronger by avoiding conflict. They become stronger by learning to handle it well. Choose curiosity and choose trust. Thank you for joining me for this lesson. By choosing curiosity over defensiveness, you're not just solving a problem, you're building a stronger, more resilient team. Start using this language today and watch how your professional relationships transform. I'll see you in the next lesson.